So we're going to get started because I did promise it would be a quick and easy kind of introduction to Mathematician's Workshop, and it wouldn't take too much of your time after school. So just to get us started, I'm just going to introduce myself. Hey everyone, glad you could all join me today. My name is Jennifer Burkowski, for those of you I haven't met, and I am a coordinator of mathematics here in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. So any of you who may be joining or watching from outside of Canada, welcome as well. One of the couple of beautiful things about my job is I get an opportunity to really dig into mathematics, which I love, and learn lots about math, and I also get to work with some fantastic teachers. So it's a great opportunity for me to learn from others and really just kind of share ideas. So what we're going to do today is something that I worked with teachers on at the beginning of the year. In our division, we have what's called Ignite, and it's a beginning of the school year kind of PD opportunity for teachers, and it's just kind of get us started and talking about Mathematician's Workshop. So we did 2 sessions of math workshop at the beginning of the year, and then it's been about a month since we did that, and this is an opportunity for us to kind of check out what a teacher is doing in her classroom, to kind of use some of the ideas we talked about and how it's working and any suggestions she may have. So I know lots of you were at my session during Ignite, and you're here now to kind of continue the conversation, so welcome. So for those of you who weren't here, I'm just going to kind of go this way a little bit and share with you some of the research I did around kind of math workshop, a mathematician's workshop. And I was able to kind of learn and pull together, this is kind of, for me, this is a consolidation of all of the work of some great math thinkers and educators in our country and outside of our country. So Dr. Small and Kathy Fosno and Joe Bowler and all those different kind of educators, Marilyn Burns, who talk about math and the math classroom and all of the things that you would do with your math instruction. And for me, this kind of diagram is kind of a consolidation or a synthesis of all of the reading and the research that I've done. And so I shared this with teachers at our Ignite session about math workshop. And you'll see around the outside edge, the kind of green circle there, it talks about 4 kind of key components of any math classroom and any kind of mathematician's workshop. So the mathematically rich environment and creating that community of mathematicians within your classroom, formative assessment and responsive instruction are all really key things to making this math workshop work. And then on the inside are kind of the components of maybe your daily math periods, or even if you can't necessarily do all 4 every day, just thinking about having those 4 components or those 4 pieces as part of your math instruction on a regular basis. So the warm-up in the top corner here is just that opportunity for those mathematicians to come into the room or to transition from maybe social studies or science that they were just doing, transition into math class and start thinking like a mathematician. So 5-10 minutes of just warming up and thinking like a mathematician. Our students who are successful in mathematics often do this seamlessly and without us even knowing about it. But our students who are struggling sometimes really struggle to transition from one subject to another, or one, recess to math class or whatever it may be. So providing that opportunity for them to just kind of situate their thinking and their learning in mathematics can be really important. Then we move into that lesson part, where a teacher can do that whole group kind of instruction, and that's really where we have the conversations, and we create the opportunity for the community of mathematicians to live and talk to each other and really kind of experience the math in a way that they can explore and discuss, and it includes all of our students, so all students feel like they're a part of the community. Then we get into that mathematician's learning time, and that's where students can do math stations. If you're doing math stations in your classroom, they can explore math concepts. It can be that hands-on kind of discovery time where students work on problem solving and games and review and different things like that. And the goal of this time is, if you can get your students able to do all of this independently, it allows a teacher that opportunity or that time for small group discussion and conferring. And then the last part of the day, also almost as important, if not just as important as the warm-up, is the wrap-up at the end, because it gives your students that opportunity to reflect and share and consolidate their learning with each other and really think about what they learned today. We know, again, our students who are successful in mathematics, they're consolidating and reflecting and pulling all of the ideas together on their own. But students who aren't successful often have a really hard time pulling it together. So if we think about in our math workshop model, making sure we have that time to support them, it can help them really consolidate the learning. How long does this last? That's a great question. It really depends on the time you have. It's kind of, in a way, proportional. And by the way I've drawn it here, it looks like at least half of your time is students just hands-on digging into the mathematics. They're doing that on their own. I guess it would just depend on how much time you have. If you think about the warm-up, you know, the 10 minutes at the beginning, the lesson, 15 minutes maybe, and the wrap-up would be about 5 minutes. That would give you, if you have an hour-long period, gives you a solid 30 minutes for your mathematician's learning time. If you have a longer period, obviously you can stretch that a little bit. And with your older students, you know, getting into 40 minutes, 45 minutes, if possible in this time, can be really helpful. Just really depends. There's no set amount of time, I don't think, because it really depends on how these different sections go. I've been in a classroom where I've been doing a warm-up and the kids were so engaged and the conversation was so rich that I didn't stop it after the 10 minutes. I just kind of let it go a little bit, and it was a great opportunity for the kids to just keep going. So, you know, as a teacher, professional discretion on that one, but I always kind of try to think about at least half of my time in that math classroom or those mathematicians that are doing the work. So, around the outside, again, those key components of mathematically rich environment and the community of mathematicians, I am so very fortunate. I had a and has gone back into her classroom and has spent the last month kind of just trying out some of the ideas and seeing if it would work in her classroom. And she is brave enough to do this with me today and kind of start off this journey on Periscope. And so her name is Mrs. Colleen Johnson, and I just wanted to introduce you all to her and thank her for an opportunity to share. And we're going to hear how Mathematician's Workshop has been working for her in her classroom.
I went to the Ignite session that Jennifer did this year, and it was wonderful. I thought that the Mathematician's workshop structure was something that would really work for my classroom and the way that I teach. But I thought, well, I really have to try hard to make this work, so I have to spend some time, put in the effort, and see how it goes with my kids. So I started off with my students introducing them to Mathematician's Workshop, and the first thing that we talked about was, what is a mathematician? And their answers were really quite cute. They didn't really know, but they said someone who's good at math, someone who can do magic with math, and someone who studies and learns math. So we're focusing more as mathematicians being someone who studies and learns math, because that's what we would be. And we had quite a talk about that we can all be mathematicians. And I know some of the students were sitting there thinking in their heads, well, I'm never going to be a mathematician. I'm not good at math. And so I said, well, if a mathematician is someone who studies and learns math, then everybody can be a mathematician. And so I think for some of them that helped them to understand more about what we were talking about. And then I had them brainstorm a list of what do mathematicians do. And some of them came up with some lovely answers. I was very excited. Obviously someone who studies and learns about math, but I really liked interesting things that they said, like just work with other people. Ask for help if it's needed. Have fun with math. Make their own math questions. Use math language. Try their best at math. So there were lots of really cool things, and that gave me lots of places to go with the students, so I was excited. One of the first things I thought I would start with was using math language with my students. And so we had the kids brainstorm a list of math words that we should understand if we're doing our patterns unit right now. So we brainstormed a list of math words, and then we created a math word wall. And I asked the students, where would you like to put your math word wall so that you can all see it and it can help you? And they all agreed as a class that they would like it to be here on the purple bulletin boards, because then they could all see it, and that was something they thought would be a good place for them. So we made the math word wall, and they all volunteered to create posters, and these are the words they came up with. So they talked about the attributes of patterns, so color, direction, texture, size, shape, what patterns can be, and then any other pattern words that we thought we should know at this point. So just even a T-chart, like what is a T-chart? I said to them, what if we had someone come in from another province who never did this unit and has never studied patterns, and they have no idea what we're talking about? And they said, oh, I guess we should have a T-chart poster. So yeah, that made sense for them. And then we were talking a little bit too about algebra, and some of the kids were getting a little panicky about, oh my gosh, we have to do algebra in grade 5. And so I said, you know what that actually is? And they said no. And I said, so let's talk about what that is. So now they know that it's a kind of math that uses symbols, letters, and numbers, and that really it's the same as missing number equations. And so I told them not to worry because I would help them, and we're all mathematicians and we'd figure it out together. So then most of them calmed down. I'm sure there's still a few worriers, but it's okay. Another thing that we did this year was we set up kind of a math corner for my students to work in, and we showed them that today, and they were very excited. We've set it up here so that this is sort of their little math corner, and they can come here at any time if they have their work done and play math games, or use the manipulatives that we have set up for them here. We went through that with them today, so here are all the math manipulatives that they can use without asking permission. They just can go and take whatever they need and use it, and these are all things that they are familiar with. The other ones here, I just said they can use them, but just if they could ask me, because some of them I need to teach them how to use them first. Like tangrams and things, I'm sure they could find really interesting uses for them, but perhaps not the one I want them to use it for necessarily. So I just asked them to hold off till I can teach them what to do with it. But we have a big tub of math games, we have pattern blocks, we have our little mini whiteboards and little mini erasers, and the kids were so excited to use them. So today we did our warm-up, and then we did a little lesson on the lesson on solving problems using patterns in the grade 5 textbook with the strawberries. I'm sure you know, grade 5 teachers, what I'm talking about. And then I set them loose using their math materials, and as they call it, their math stuff, and the math corner, and wherever they wanted to go, whatever they wanted to use to solve the problem. And it was so lovely. They just went to work, and they used whatever they felt they needed to use, and some worked in pairs and groups, and some worked by themselves, and it was just probably the most productive math period I've seen for a long time. And the kids were all really comfortable, and they asked for help if they needed it, but they were all engaged, so it was fabulous. So I'm really thankful that I went to that PD session and that I'm trying it out this year, and it seems to be working really well so far. So thanks again, Jen, for doing that for us.
Awesome. So that is kind of what Mathematician's Workshop can look like in your classroom. I want to thank Colleen for being brave enough to come or to let me come into her classroom and to share some of the things she's doing. She's doing some amazing things. And I just keep thinking about, when you think about, things are working easier and things are flowing better, you think about those big ideas we talked about, that community of mathematicians and having that environment that's mathematically rich, having the words on the wall, having the manipulatives ready for those mathematicians to use, and having the classroom climate such that kids can work together and they can talk with each other and they can ask their questions and they can create the learning. That's what really creates our community of mathematicians. So thanks for joining us. You're welcome. Thank you for the inspiration. I'm glad we can help you out a little bit. Does anyone have any questions before we kind of sign off for the day here? If you do, feel free to type them in. If not, we are definitely going to do this again. I think it's an awesome opportunity for teachers to sit, like I said, after school at their desk and just kind of learn a little bit. And at that Ignite session, I got a list of other teachers who said they may be interested in this. So I'm going to start seeing if I can get some more people who are willing to kind of open up their classroom a little bit and just share some ideas how it's going. Thank you again, Colleen, for that. If anyone has any questions, we'll give you like the last 30 seconds. You're welcome. I'm glad you were able to join us, and hopefully we'll be able to do it. Do you have a link to the circle thing? Yes. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the circle on my blog. For those of you who are in Saskatoon Public Schools, it's on the Math Hub, so you have access to that already. For those of you who are not in our school system, I'm going to make sure I put it on my blog with this video so you have it, and it'll be the start of a conversation. I'm not saying I have it all figured out yet, but it's just, for me, it's just the way I've made sense of this Mathematician's Workshop thing, and we're going to keep digging into it. So thanks so much for coming. Have a great night. Go out and enjoy the sunny Saskatoon weather.